Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, joined by the always talented Rachel Smith. How are you, Rachel?
Hey, I'm doing well, Howard. How are you?
I'm good. Do you have fun yesterday, day number one?
Yesterday was awesome. Thank you so much for everyone for showing up. We built an awesome design system, and I'm excited to continue today.
Absolutely, and we already have people in the chat. Vipin's asking for a quick overview of what you did yesterday. We'll get into that in just a moment, but I do want to remind everyone that in about an hour and a half, about half an hour before the show ends, we're going to be taking a look at some of your daily creative challenges. So if I hop over to my screen very quickly, we've got the Daily Creative Challenge landing page, behance.net/challenge/XD. Andrea Hawk is running this set of challenges, or I should say Andrea Epi. Name change. She got married. Congratulations. Actually, it was about a year ago, but she finally got around to changing her name on social media. So today's task is to create a scrollable list using Adobe XD. So head on over there, submit your challenge in Discord, and we will take a look at it shortly. All right. So Rachel, the floor is yours. Let us know, what you've done yesterday, what you're going to be tackling today, and maybe just for those who are just joining for day number 2, maybe a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for coming back day 2. For those of you who joined yesterday, we're excited to have you back today. And for those of you whose first day today, hi, I'm Rachel. It's nice to meet everybody. I am a Latina senior UX designer at Nordstrom Rack, and I am the founder of 2 global organizations responding to COVID-19 design problems. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to rachelsmithdesign.com. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at @ORachelSmith. You can check me out there. Yesterday, I had a few fun facts. I think I shared with the group that I like making things. I build neon signs. I love collecting records and music. So I thought I would share some new things that maybe some folks might not know about me. One of the things is I love surfing. So if anyone ever wants to go, hit me up. I'm in LA. I'll take you out. I had a friend of mine she's originally from Belarus, but she's from Chicago, and I took her out for her first time. She almost stood up, which was really cool. But I will say we saw a stingray together, which is the first time I ever saw a stingray. And it was her first time ever surfing. So she's like, "Are you sure this isn't normal?"
Oh, no.
It was such an experience. I was like, I've never seen one before. I promise it's safe. But anyways, if anyone's ever wanted to try.
Did you pet it?
No, I did not pet it.
Can you do that? I don't know.
They say you're supposed to shuffle your feet in the sand so that you kind of like have them scurry off. But no, I definitely didn't pet it. Yeah. No for that. But I also love traveling. So here's a picture. I have this. I love going into convenience stores in other countries and just taking pictures of the candy. I love the packaging. This was in Norway. I didn't know what this candy was, so I purchased it. It was actually really good, but I love the packaging. I love the different typefaces, and it's just the small things that you kind of, it kind of just, it seems different. Things that you kind of take for granted,
Yeah, this one looks super old school, something you would find in like the 1940s or 50s.
For sure. Yeah, I loved it. I just thought it was so cool. But I love traveling. So if you have a favorite place you like to go to, let me know. I'd love to check it out. And I love neat signage. I probably drive my husband and friends absolutely insane. If I'm ever driving on the highway and I see a really cool sign, I'm like, pull over. I'll literally go and take a picture. This was in Dallas, Texas. I saw this sign and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Just the typography and how it's mid-century and it's kind of got that Googie vibe. I just loved it. So
Were
yeah.
you able to see this one at night as well? Because I'm
Yeah.
trying to picture in my mind what it looks like at night.
Yeah, at night it's so cool. It lights up. It's totally beautiful because sometimes these signs you see them in the day, you're like, oh, I don't know if they work at night, and then you see them
Yeah.
at nighttime, and you're like, oh my god, they're a lot of work to keep up. So it's nice to see when you see one like this in the wild, you're like, oh, that's incredible. But
Yeah.
those are some fun facts about me.
Nice. I love it. I love that you change it up from day number 1 and
Yeah,
2.
for people who are tuning in, you gotta mix it up sometimes.
Yeah.
Cool. So I have a volunteer organization, which is what we built our guide on yesterday. The volunteer organization, it's called Designed to Combat COVID-19. And we are a group of over, it says 1,500 here, but as of last week, we reached over 2,000
Oh,
volunteers.
fancy.
Yeah, it's been incredible. Designers, engineers, copywriters, basically you don't even have to be creative. If you just want to come into our organization and help out, you can. But what we do is we take problems that are existing today in society because of COVID or people who've been impacted by COVID, and we propose design solutions to help with that. Basically, I kind of gave this overview yesterday, but I tweeted out to my followers. We have an awesome Slack channel where people are working on projects together. We've been able to create PPE, which is personal protective equipment like masks and gloves, distribution models. So basically people volunteering and sending them out. Here are some of the masks that we've been able to get out through this organization. It's been incredible, but it's not just masks that we've been able to send out. We've also created infographic posters for hospitals. We've assisted small businesses with marketing needs if they've been affected by COVID, or even if you've been laid off or you need resume guidance or mentorship. We have the folks here who want to be able to help you. So if you want to volunteer and join our community, you can go to designedtocombatcovid19.com and sign up. Or if you have an idea that you think, we can help you build, you can also come to us and let us know. But
Yeah, and I love that yesterday during day number 1, we had a bunch of people who were super excited about this, and they want to jump in and start volunteering. So hopefully they made it over to your Slack channel
yeah,
and Twitter account. But
yeah, we've had a lot of people come and follow. It's been really cool.
yeah, I love that. And, Melissa, where did it go? Someone named Melissa posted in the chat a second ago. I just took a quick peek of it. It's not there anymore, but I believe she mentioned something about the Neon Sign Museum in Las Vegas. Have you heard of that?
Yes, so I actually went there for my bachelorette party. That's how
Oh my
nerdy
gosh.
I am. I dragged all my girlfriends to go look at a bunch of neon signs in the desert. That place is incredible. I
love
love it. Yeah, it's so cool. It basically takes all the old signs from old school Vegas, and it's basically like a pile yard, but it's absolutely beautiful. Just the artistry that goes into making the signs, and it's just really it looks like a movie set. It's really cool. But yeah,
That's so
the
cool.
Neon Sign Museum is awesome. Good call
Nice.
out. Yeah, here's a video of us sending out some masks, which is really cool. We've had a lot of volunteers in our organization. I know I kind of went through some of this yesterday, but for the folks that hadn't been here today, I kind of wanted to show them just like the impact that we're making. We've been able to give out over 100,000 masks worldwide. And it's funny because you think sometimes, at least I do, in my home, working or designing, just thinking like, I'm only one person, like how much impact could you have? You really can have a lot of impact.
Absolutely.
Even if you're working remotely at your desk, just creating the network, being able to get out and help people, it's huge. And I definitely encourage, if you are interested in doing it, to do so.
Yeah, and 100 masks can go such a long way. It's not just saving 100,000 you said. It's not just saving 100,000 people. Yeah, but if 100,000 people are wearing those masks, and they come in contact with like 1 million people collectively, that could be 1 million people that are being saved.
Yeah, exactly. So we are open to any and all ideas. But yes, so yesterday we built a design system for Design to Combat COVID-19. It's not done yet. But this is what we covered in day 1. So we covered who we are. We came up with a brand voice. So basically encapsulating who we are, how we talk to our volunteers that come onto the site, or how we kind of project like who we are to the public. We also started playing around with a logo. It's funny, we chatted about it a bit yesterday. I was talking about how I ramped up everything so quickly and I didn't have the time to create a brand or come up with any design, any like patterns, a logo. So having this opportunity to build it all with you has been such a godsend. I mean, yeah, so we even explored building logos yesterday, which is great. We talked through illustrations. We did some fonts together. We chose some really cool fonts, a primary, a secondary, a display font. We also talked through text styles, so defining our headers and our body copy styles. We also went through some colors and named colors together. We talked about accessibility and we talked through call to action. So if any of this is something that you're trying to learn, I would definitely encourage you to go back to day one and maybe watch how we built it together just to kind of give you a feel of our experience there.
Yeah, and as Rachel's going through this process for day number 2, if anyone in the chat has questions, definitely throw it in there. I am peeking over from time to time, and I will do my best to ask her.
Yep, exactly. So throw in those questions, happy to help out and answer anything that we can. Let's see here. So what we'll be covering today, we're basically going to be cleaning up the style guide. So I went in last night and kind of cleaned up just a bit of the things that we talked through. So we're going to walk through that. I want to finalize the logo with you all. So I played with a few different variations based off of feedback that we received. So we'll be going through that together. We're also going to be creating some icons, some content modules, some cards. I want to talk through a user flow because we're going to be building a resources page for Designed to Combat COVID-19. Yeah, we have a resources page, but I want to think it through a little bit more. I want to build it together. So that's what we'll be focusing on. But I also want to build a user flow and show, the user experience of how to get to that page. So I'm hoping this community can help me with that as well.
Yep.
And then for the resources page, we'll be walking through lo-fi, maybe walking through some hi-fi. And if we get to it, even build a newsletter to kind of showcase this new resources page.
Oh, fun. That should be nice.
Yeah. How does that sound to everyone?
Yeah, throw your comments in the chat if you have feedback or suggestions on, what problems can be solved through, design to help tackle COVID. Definitely throw them in there as well. And join the Slack channel.
Yeah, join. That'd be super fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen of the style guide so we can kind of walk through what we've created together so far. So yesterday, one of the main things that I really called out was, who are we? I think it's really important to really have a pitch sentence with whatever that you're trying to get across of who you are or what the product is. And so for us, Designed to Combat COVID-19, we're a virtual community of over 1,500 who want to remotely volunteer their skills. We're here to help create innovative solutions to support each other affected by the pandemic. So that's
and I think you were saying, sorry to interrupt, but I think you were saying before we jumped on the stream that you're closer to 2,000 now, right?
Yeah, so I should probably update that. I think we hit like 2,000 last week.
Yeah, that's so exciting how quick you're growing. And that 500 extra people that you've just grown in the last week or so can make such a big impact.
Totally. Yeah. I just have the problem of having to update all my socials now. I'm like, oh my gosh, it keeps growing. I have to go. And now it's 2,000.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's a good problem to have. But yeah, so this is the who we are encapsulating kind of sentence. I may work on it a little bit more later down the line, but I think this really is a good start to kind of show who we are as a community and kind of get that one little pitch out there. Awesome. Okay, we also created a brand voice. So together as a group, we talked about how our voice is empathetic, we're real, we're conversational. We're basically just humans trying to help other humans. And I worked with the group to think about different example sentences that we could use if we wanted to write copy on our website or maybe have some marketing materials. What would that sound like? And these are some examples of what those would be at the bottom. So,
nice. So you've got be open, be empathetic, be informational, and be proactive. And many of these came from the community yesterday.
Yeah, I think we had a few in the empathetic section. So someone said, it's a difficult time. You can always count on us, or we hear you. How can we be of help? I love those suggestions that we received yesterday. There's so many times where, you know, you hear something and it comes off disgenuine, and this really feels like human to humans just talking to each other, which is
Right.
what we're trying to encapsulate in our brand, which is awesome. Okay, yesterday we were playing around with some logos. Up here you can kind of see I just like quick threw something on the page, but I took some time last night. I think we all agreed that we liked this kind of approach. We didn't want COVID to be too in your face. We didn't want it to be like super red or we didn't want it to be like a frightening color. And designed to combat. We talked about how blues are a little bit more soothing when you're talking about the psychology of colors and color theory, that these are normally the colors that you would be using to soothe you a little bit more. So, having the blue and then have the gray be a bit neutral, I think worked well together.
I think so.
Yeah. And we talked about also having it be, if you were to see the logo really large on a billboard versus really tiny on a mobile device, whatever you build, you want to make sure that it scales on all fronts.
That's true. It's very important, especially if you're eventually going to be moving this to mobile and, that logo shrinks down. Even, the text-based logo, the image-based logo, that stuff is going to shrink down pretty small, and it's going to be very difficult to read if it's, if it's not legible.
Yep. And then, so I kind of joked around yesterday. I was like, I bought the website and the domain so quickly, designed to combat COVID-19. It's kind of a mouthful. And one of my admins over at the group, Brandon, he's like, he just started calling it DCC 19 one day. And I was like, whoa, that really sticks. I like that. DCC 19. So we have a logo variation here with just the acronym, which I thought was really fun. And we created some color schemes as well. So what I did is I took our illustrations, I threw them in like a little circle as an icon, and use the different colors that we created and have them be scaled here. So I thought this was kind of fun, and I wanted to show the group that. But we're still playing around with logo explorations, and if anyone wants to join the group and volunteer a logo and show it to me, I'm totally open to it too. I'm not an illustrator. I'm trying my best here, but I think these are a good start based on having nothing.
Yeah. We have Alexander in the chat. I'm not sure which way this comment is going, but he says, that ain't a logo, that's a comic book. So it definitely, has a lot of illustration and a lot of color, a lot of imagery. Now, going off of that, when would you use, assuming you go with both of them, you go with, let's say, the DCC 19 one in the middle there with the circle and the illustrations and the text-based logo to the left, when would you use the one in the circle, and when would you use the one, just the text-based logo?
Yeah, so I would definitely use a text-based logo like this one on the left to showcase from like outside looking in. So basically, if I wanted to do it on the website and I wanted someone to know who we were, obviously I wouldn't use the acronym because nobody would know what DCC 19 is, right?
Right.
But if we wanted to go with DCC 19 internally for folks who maybe already know what the community is, that's when I would use that. But these are just explorations. I'm having fun. I agree. It's a lot of illustration. We do have illustrations that we brought these in from Open Peeps, which is done by Pablo Stanley. I kind of talked about this yesterday. It's an open source illustration website that you're able to bring into XD, and you can play around with different variants of these illustrations. But I thought they were really cool. They were really diverse. So we use them periodically throughout the site. I thought it would be neat to pull them in to, these various logos, but maybe they don't work. So I'll have to explore some more. DCC 19, designed to combat COVID. It is a mouthful. There's a lot of exploration to be done, but I think we're at a good starting point. And yeah, I think using something like DCC 19 internally would make more sense. You definitely don't want to use an acronym when introducing your brand or a community for the first time to anybody. So
right. And if you ever design stickers, that would be perfect.
Oh, that would be perfect for a sticker. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
I would buy stickers like with that logo on it.
I think I just might make these as stickers. I could just totally see this where, I'm going to. That's a great idea. Thank you, Howard.
Yeah, let us know in the chat if anyone would buy stickers that look like that. Throw like a, I don't know, a little star emoji in the chat.
Cool. Yeah, so we were exploring. I was exploring this last night. I threw on a movie, and I was like, I'm just gonna have fun with these. So that's where we are. But let's see. Then we talked about the illustration. So we went through that. Let's see what else.
Was it a good movie, by the way?
I put on Nightmare Before Christmas. I
Oh,
thought,
okay. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, I love that movie, and I've been really just exploring the depths of Disney Plus lately. I don't know if you have Disney Plus.
Yep, of course.
But they just opened up all of these movies that I didn't even know existed. Obviously, I knew Nightmare Before Christmas existed, but it's just one of my favorites, so it's super fun.
Yeah, we have a 3.5-year-old, and Disney Plus is like the best thing ever. And when they first announced it, they were doing some sort of promotion where if you buy 2 years in advance, you get a third year free or something to that extent. You get a big discount. So we just said, you know what? She's going to be 3. She's going to be 4 eventually. It's going to be amazing. And it's been great.
That's, yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
I don't have children. I just really like Disney.
Of course.
But it's a great, it's awesome. I love it. Mandalorian's really, like, it's all just, it's fun. There's something there for everybody.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Disney. Even before our daughter was born, we lived in LA for a while, and we had an annual pass to Disneyland, and we were just there every weekend. It was fantastic. It's just a nice escape from reality.
Yep, yeah, I have a pass. I can't currently use it, but that's okay. But yes,
Right.
I feel that. It's just fun sometimes to go after work and hang out. Just go on Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh,
Haunted
that's
Mansion.
by far my favorite. My wife's favorite ride is
Right?
Haunted Mansion. Mine's Pirates of the Caribbean. So it's just like those two. Soarin's also a good one.
Oh yeah, Soarin's so much fun.
You know,
I love
one thing
that
about
ride.
Soarin' though, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but a while back, this was like years and years ago, one of the scenes they had a very specific smell that I absolutely
Oranges.
loved, and they got rid of it and they
Oh,
changed it to something
no.
else, and I was so disappointed.
Yeah, they had before. I think it's soaring over the world. But
Yeah.
before it was soaring over California, and you would go over these orange orchards, and you could smell oranges. But then you could also go over the ocean, and you would get this like weird,
It's
like
so good.
breezy salt air. It was, I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I loved it. It's a good ride.
Yeah. We do have Raphael in the chat is asking, is Rachel using the 8-pixel method for font sizes?
Yeah, so we talked about it a bit yesterday. So when we were defining our sizes, I believe this is like 44 and 28. So we are using 8 pixels. I was told a while ago, 8 pixels is the way to go. I can't remember like exactly when I heard that, but it was the padding, you want to do 8 pixels, and then the typography. But yeah, so everything is in increments of 8. You always want to land on an even number.
Yeah. I know one of our go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, you're fine.
Oh yeah, one of our hosts, Peter Del Tondo, got me on the 8-pixel grid a while ago because typically when I'm teaching XD or whatever it is, I don't really have time to actually line things up perfectly. But he really
Right.
started to explain on his streams why the 8-pixel grid is so important, and now it's just like ingrained in my head that it's got to be like icons have to be 16 pixels apart or 24, whatever it is. Math is starting to kind of go through my head. Even though I'm terrible at math, it's something that's always back there now.
Yeah, I think when I first started doing web-based design, I would just do like, oh yeah, like do everything on, 10 pixels. Like, I don't know, 10 just seemed like an even number to me. And then when I learned about the 8-pixel grid, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But I'm right there with you. I went to art school for a reason, but it is good to know math. Study math. You will use it.
Yeah.
Yes.
In worst case,
8-pixel grid's
XD
where
does
to go.
math equations in the Problems Inspector. There you go.
Exactly. So yesterday we talked about fonts. We have a primary font of Futura. I am biased because it is one of my favorite fonts, so I wanted to pull that in as a primary. I also wanted to explore, if we were to have a secondary font, maybe for body copy, for, I don't know, legal copy or something. Maybe we can use a serif font, maybe, I don't know. I wanted to bring in a serif just to mix it up a bit. So someone suggested Noto, which I thought was a great suggestion. So we went ahead and brought that in. We also have a display font, which is Railway. And this would be for our main callouts, huge headers. I wouldn't necessarily suggest having 3 completely different fonts in your system, but we're just kind of exploring here and kind of playing around. But usually I would suggest a primary and a secondary, and then maybe for a display you can have like a really big variation of the primary, but we're just having fun here. We went ahead and went through the typography styles for Futura. So we defined our headings, which we have here in our character styles list. Heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, and then we also defined our copy body as well, large, medium, and small. I did the same thing for Railway and for Noto. For Railway, as I kind of mentioned, I just wanted to play around with headings. I probably won't use it as much just because I don't want there to be too much variation within the fonts. So I might nix this one, but I'm still playing around and having fun. And then for Noto, as I described, if I wanted legal copy or maybe something that was a little less pertinent, then I can go ahead and use this, but still exploring, nothing set in stone. We're just kind of walking through this together and seeing what organically comes up. Let's see here. Okay. I have some new things I want to walk through, but let me finish walking through what we kind of discussed yesterday. We defined some colors yesterday, which is really cool. So we have our main color for DCC 19. I think someone suggested calling it sanitary blue. Yeah, just because, we're kind of in the health space. So tying that in. Someone suggested the word computer days. I think it was like computer, and I like computer days. I was like, oh, I kind of like that. We have sterile clean just because like health, and you want, when you're in the medical office, you want everything to be like clean and sterile. So we called it that. We have a gray as our primary. I call that tin can just because that's the first thing that came up in my mind. And then I realized yesterday it would be really nice to have a secondary color that is a little bit similar to the sanitary blue, not so much. We didn't have this color yesterday, so I came up with it last night and I called it Just Breathe, Just Relax. And I think this would be a really good color to kind of complement this blue as we build out other components as well.
I love colors like this, where it's like you want to go almost white, but then you bring in just a little bit of blue or a little bit of red or whatever your primary color is. And it just it really does make a difference. You might not notice it right away, but it makes a huge difference.
Oh, it totally does. And I think when we start building components and building out that resources page, a lot of these colors are very stark. So having something that's a little bit lighter to bring out, that contrast difference, I think is going to make a big difference. We have Boop Purple, Boop because apparently I like using, I was saying Boop to everything I was dropping in, and someone's like, you should just call it Boop Purple, which I loved. So we brought it in. And then we have Flamingo and Sunset, which is another new color I introduced, kind of the same vein as our Just Breathe, just giving it a little bit of a different, like a lighter tone or a hue rather to our Flamingo, just to kind of offset it.
Absolutely.
We talked a bit about accessibility yesterday and why it's important. Talking about low contrast, medium contrast, high contrast, and we pulled up this article, which I thought was really nice. It's an article that XD did about an introduction to accessibility. Let's see here.
Yeah, it's a fantastic article. And for those who do use XD and various other design applications, actually, the fantastic team at Stark released a plugin that Rachel showed off yesterday that really helps you figure out, if your colors have enough contrast, and also if it passes color blindness tests, which is incredibly important because, like we were saying yesterday, just because you can see something very well doesn't mean everyone else can. So accessibility is very important these days, and in some cases, it's actually a legal requirement.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of companies or small or businesses are getting audited as well. I mean, It's definitely something you want to be mindful of, like simple things like labeling your text fields. If somebody's blind and they're using a screen reader and they're tabbing through and they're not able to see what the field's called, you're not being inclusive of everybody. So it's small things like that you should definitely be mindful of. Yeah. But this is a great article to get started. XD covers all the grounds. I would definitely, we can throw this in the chat, or I could share it later on my Twitter, and you guys can go ahead and check it out. But we chatted a bit about accessibility yesterday.
Yep.
We created some calls to action, which is really great, or buttons. So we talked about buttons and hover states. We created secondary buttons, a few links, and making sure that whatever you do create, it can work on any background, and just making sure that you're checking those accessible colors as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to where we are today. So what I'd like to do for today is kind of walk through some icons with you guys. I want to think about some icons for the site I think would be really nice. Maybe even create some favicons based off of our logo, or come up with something together.
Yep.
I wanted to create a few variations of cards with you. So thinking about the resources page, if we were to showcase resources or type kits, how would that look on the page? And then creating a component where we can just go ahead and drag it, drop it in, and work from there.
Yeah, I think I'm really excited for the cards section because we recently released the stacks feature, and combine that with padding, it can make creating cards just that much easier.
Awesome. You might have to show me a few of that.
Okay.
That new, yeah, that'd be.
Yeah, it's a new feature, so
cool.
Some people haven't discovered it yet. We do have someone in the chat asking, where did the question go? What can someone that's trying to learn about UX design learn? Or I guess, how can you better learn UX design? Because you focus primarily on UX. So what are some tips and tricks you can give to people who are trying to get into that field?
Oof, where do I start?
I know it's a big question.
Yeah, so UX design, basically it's just user experience, right? And I think there's lots of different, some people, they want to pair UX and UI together, or some people, they say, it's just research, or it's just thinking about a user. Being a UX designer, you can really be a generalist. And that's what I would call myself. To get started in UX design, I would definitely say you're working towards, building for a user. So everything that you see, I think we talked about this yesterday, but everything you see and touch, from your t-shirt to your chair, it had to be thought out by somebody, right? Like someone took the time to break it down and build it. And that's what us UX designers do as well. So we like to think about a holistic experience from the moment you pick up your phone to the moment you get something delivered to your doorstep. What does that entire experience look like? Now, in terms of designing, I think it's really important to be a visual designer. So to be able to build out the things that you are trying to envision, XD is a great tool for that. We're going to be walking through some user flows today. So I can walk you through how to think about that process a bit in building, a page, or where does a person go down, that journey to get to wherever they're going. We'll talk about that. But also, I think it's really important as a UX designer to always show your work in front of somebody. So oftentimes we can work in a silo and think this is the best, and that's wonderful. It's great to have confidence, but unless you give it to somebody and you get the feedback and you iterate, then you'll never know if the product you're building or the website that you're building is actually going to work in your favor.
Yeah. And it's so easy, like we were talking about yesterday, so easy to get caught in that, the blinder vision. I forget what the actual term is, but you're so fixated on whatever it is you're designing at any moment that everything seems fantastic. And I can't tell you how many times I've just been sitting down and designing something for hours on end, don't even get up and don't even take a break. And my mind is getting accustomed to it, whatever it is I'm designing, whether it's a logo or a mobile app or whatever. And I'm just thinking the entire time, this is looking amazing. I can't believe I'm creating something like this. Then I'll walk away for even 15 minutes. I'll come back and think, what in the world was I designing? You have to let your mind take a break from time to time and basically clear itself out. And actually, getting your work into other people's hands is a great way of doing that, because it gives, takes off your blinders, and it gives people an opportunity to give you feedback. Some of it might be good, some of it might be a little bit constructive, but you got to take all that in and use that to better your work.
Yeah, and I think so. When I first started my career, I was a print designer. I lived out in Texas, and I worked for this restaurant corporation, and I did billboards and menus and magazine covers, and it was really fun. I love doing graphic design and print design. It's still one of my passions. However, I would say going into UX design, you kind of have to reframe your way of thinking, because my old job, someone would say, make this red thing blue. And you're like, okay, well, why? And they're like, because I want to. And I'm like, all right, well, you signed my check, so I guess I'll go ahead and just
Right.
do it, right? But in UX design, you get the opportunity to say, well, why? What problem are we solving for? And so
Yep.
you can really take a step back and think, are we thinking about the right things here? Is this the right approach? I think another story I heard that's kind of in a similar vein is people were in an elevator. There's a story of like people were in an elevator and the elevator just seemed so like such a long trip to get to like the 30th floor. And someone said, well, how can we fix this problem? And someone said, make the elevator faster or, have less people go on. And a UX designer came in, and I'm probably butchering this story, but someone came in and was like, well, what if you put a mirror inside of the elevator? It's human nature that want to look at yourself and the time will go by more quickly. Or if you put like a television in there. So it's kind of not saying like, the elevator's slow, but maybe we can create other solutions to make the time go by faster. So it's just kind of reframing those questions, and being a UX designer, you get the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because we take a very similar approach when we're creating our video tutorials for XD or Photoshop or whatever it might be. Is there are always going to be cases at the beginning or even the middle of a video tutorial where there's just talking. In today's tutorial we're going to cover blah blah blah, and this is why you want to do it. So what we found is, if you look at the audience retention, the analytics, in those parts where there's typically just a static image of, like, let's say the application, people tend to drop off because maybe they're not listening or they just get bored because people have very short attention spans these days. But all you have to do, like, even if the cursor, the pointer is just moving around the screen, people fixate on that and they're listening in the background. Or even if you use in post-processing, you just zoom in very slightly to a certain area of the application. It's the such little things that make a huge difference.
Yeah, all in all, we're all just humans and we have our strange humanistic tendencies. So if you figure out ways to keep us all engaged and keep our attention, then you'll be a great UX designer.
We're just little hamsters in someone else's universe.
Yeah, we're just in a big hamster wheel. That's awesome. Okay, I'm getting side railed. We are building things today. One of those things is content modules. So I'll also show you, different ways to create modules so that if you want to drop any sort of content into your website or whatever it is that you're building, we're building that together.
Yep.
But I do want to start and talking about icons. And I thought at first, I'll just start creating some and then we can create the rest. But I was actually poking through some of XD's resources, and y'all actually have a really cool page showcasing different types of free UI design kits and plugins and app integrations. And you actually have icon sets, which I discovered. Mm-hmm. It's really cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at that.
Yeah, we also have, these are fantastic. I would definitely encourage people to check these out because these are typically a little bit higher quality than the ones you would get in the plugin I'm about to mention. But one of my favorite plugins is called Icons for the number 4 Design. And that gives you access to open source icons that you can use in your projects.
Oh, here, yeah, I think I have it here.
You have it, yeah.
Let's see. Oh, my laptop's in the way. Let me move this over so we could take a look at it. Icons for design. Yep, that's it right there. So this is a great example. So I think yesterday I was, let me move this mic a little bit, looking for, obviously, like, we'll need a search icon, right? So I think I just put in search, and then we have all of these different icons. So when you guys have these plugins, is it, like, does Adobe create them? Are they third party? Like, who creates all of these icons?
Yeah, so most of them are third-party plugins, so they're created by additional developers. Adobe and various teams at Adobe have created a few plugins that are available within the plugins experience, but most of them are created by third-party developers.
Nice. Yeah, I was shocked at how many icons y'all have in this plugin.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and this one in particular is basically curating icons from various open source libraries like the Awesome Library, Iconic, Material, Map, and that sort of thing. So, even though it's the third-party developer probably didn't create most, if not all, of these icons, but they are definitely bringing them in from additional resources.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great to know. Okay, so I wanted a search icon. I wonder if can you just like drag and drop, or do you have to just click it? I think.
This
Let's
this
see.
um this plugin has not implemented drag and drop yet. The API
Ah,
does support it, but many plugins have not implemented that yet.
cool. Yeah, I'm glad you talked about this plugin because I it was on my radar to chat about as well. But
Yeah.
kind of going back to the resources page, I saw that you have resources for Lance Wyman, which is really cool. If people don't know who this is, he helped to create the Mexico 1968 logo for the Olympics, which is huge in
Nice.
design. Yeah, so I just love like mid-century type things. So it kind of is close to my heart. I mean, obviously you guys saw that old sign that I took a picture of. So this type of
Hmm.
era of design really sticks out to me, which is why I wanted to chat about it. But you can download this kit, which I did, and it has some icons that he created. But what's really cool about the story about the logo behind Mexico 68, what you can see here is they used it, yes, for the Olympics. It was huge. Mexico really wanted to be on par with Paris and Berlin during the time. And so they brought in designers to kind of heighten that up for them. And the Mexico 68 logo, it just took off. They ended up creating an entire design language based off of this logo, which is incredible. So they created all these various icons, which you can see here, not only for the Olympics, but they ended up using it as well for the metro system.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's a huge story. But they ended up taking the Mexico 68 logo. They built it into an entire design language. They used it for the metro. And I think even to this day, like small signs that you see with like a walking person or the hand coming up, it all stemmed from this logo design system, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a beautiful logo. I'd be curious every time I see a really nice iconic logo from the past. I always wonder what the reception would be on Twitter in 2020, because every time you see a new logo being posted on Twitter, especially looking at all the previous Olympic logos, there's always, everyone becomes a logo designer and they make changes to it. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good, but everything is criticized these days.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Twitter is it's hit or miss sometimes over there. But I think
Yeah.
what's really cool about this is that they were able to take this logo and make it into an entire design language. And it
Yeah.
ended up working and it's so simple. You look at this, you know exactly what it is. And to think, folks didn't really do that before. Like things were so complicated or people use their own language. And again, we're going back to that conversation we had yesterday about universal language and building for everybody and not just one type of audience, right? So this it it's it's bigger than just a logo. It's bigger than just an icon. When you're
Yep.
thinking about design, it's universal. But yeah, I kind of wanted to chat about that. I thought it was fun, and I love that you have these resources on the site for free that you can use and just download like right now, which is really
Yeah, they're
cool.
fun little icons.
Yeah, they are fun little icons. Okay, but let's get back to building our icons. So we have a search. I definitely want to have black, I think would be a good option, but maybe we can go ahead and use a blue icon as well.
Hmm.
What are some other icons in the group that you all think we should probably bring into the site? I'm thinking search bar. I think a hamburger menu would be really
Of
fun to
course, you
have
gotta
for,
have one of
yeah,
those.
yeah, totally. But if
Yeah.
anyone wants to spit out some suggestions, I am here for it.
Hmm. Off the top of my head, probably a home icon is probably necessary. Especially, well, I guess it depends if you're doing a mobile site or a website. Doing a website probably doesn't make much sense, but mobile definitely needs some sort of home icon.
Yeah, I agree. So let's go with home. Cool. It's funny. I put in hamburger, but I don't see it, so we might have to create our own unless
I think if you put
it's
in menu, you might find it.
yeah,
Yeah.
menu. Haha, there we go.
So Eddie is saying hamburger, home, search, and a heart icon.
Ooh, heart.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of working on favoriting for NordstromRack.com, which is kind of crazy that we didn't have favorites on a retail site a long time ago.
Right.
But yeah, I was able to build that from scratch. It was really cool. And talking about language, there was a big, what am I doing? I have a freaking color saved for this. Let's see. Boop. There we go. Oh no, is it because,
Oh, that one is border based. So you'll want to right
Yep.
click on the color in the assets panel and then apply as border.
Okay. Let's see. Ooh.
And while you're
learn
doing
something new
that, we
every
have
day.
Lee in the house. Hey, Lee. And she is saying we were lucky enough to interview Lance on Adobe Live a few years ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what I was saying with the favoriting, which is, let's see here, we can bring this down here. When I was building out favorites for Nordstrom Rack, there was like a really big conversation happening of whether we should call it favorites or wish lists, and people kept going back and forth. And you wouldn't think a naming convention of one word would make such a huge difference.
Oh, it
But going
does.
back to user experience and UX design, I ran so many user tests just showing this icon and asking people, if you were to give this a name, what would you call it?
Mm-hmm.
And some people did say wish list. A lot of people, more people said favorites.
Yeah.
But the intent behind the word is what made the difference. So for folks, they were saying wish list is something that they would want to put away, that they hope somebody would buy for them someday, that it's not really attainable, where favorites is something that you need right now, right then and
Interesting.
there. Yeah, which was, I was like, whoa, that's a really cool uncovering. So even thinking about the language that you use in a singular word can really make a difference on people's mindset on it. So just something to be mindful of.
That's so wild. It's the exact same icon, but because
Yep.
the terminology behind it is different, it completely changes how you look at that thing and interact with it. That's so cool.
I'm telling you, humans were strange.
Yeah, exactly. So we do have additional suggestions. Julia is saying arrows and a close icon.
Yes, of course. We
And
need our, yep.
yeah, Simon is saying chat or a question icon, which is great, especially if you have the ability to chat directly on the website or ask for help of some sort.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm wondering if we can separate these into like action icons. So maybe like there's navigational icons, which the search I think could go under.
Yeah, Eddie's saying how many hours was spent over the favorite icon in the corporate world.
Oh my gosh.
It's an interesting conversation. I can't imagine, some meetings at large corporations, half an hour meetings are incredibly expensive if you factor in salaries and everything like that. And you just know, especially at, a company like Apple, for example, they've probably had so many meetings, hours upon hours, trying to figure out the terminology or the colors of very specific small icons that people probably don't even see on a daily basis. But
Right?
those meetings happen all the time.
I know. Yeah, it does. It does take a lot of time. And one thing, kind of mentioning back when I was a print designer, and it's probably because I was a lot more junior. I wouldn't say I didn't know how to stand up for myself, but I was a lot more passive. Like if someone was like, no, do it like this, I'd be okay. But as a UX designer, you really have to fight for your craft. And if you have the research backing you up, if you have the data backing you up, make those decisions. Like that's what you're there for. You're there to guide with your knowledge and your leadership. But yeah, there is a lot of back and forth. But if you have your users backing you up, then that's, it's game over.
Absolutely.
Over.
Yeah. Alexander has an interesting question. He says, so the question is, how much does user experience or UX really matter when you're already popular? So if you think about like an application actually, for me, I'm going to just throw out the example of Snapchat, right? Snapchat wasn't insanely popular. I mean, it still is popular, but a while back, they completely changed their application. And
I remember that.
I don't use Snapchat often, but I just saw a revolt amongst teenagers, basically, that they absolutely hated the new user experience and the UI of Snapchat. And I don't know if the numbers were affected at all. I believe I read something that there was a bit of a drop-off for a while until they changed things. So, even if you are a popular application or service, bad user experience can absolutely affect you.
Yeah, I think there's some companies that can get away with it. Like if Apple makes a new, like when they got rid of the home button at first, everyone was like, "What's going on?" But then you kind of train people, right?
That's true.
I think it depends. Like if it's a product or if it's a web experience, sometimes you can train people.
Yep.
But I don't think that's the best approach. Humans are just naturally going to do what they are going to try to do the first time. when people get frustrated at things, like if you ever try to open a door the wrong way and they're like, they're like, I'm the dumb one, I don't know how to work a door. No, it's not user error. The door was designed poorly. So people are going to try to do things organically the first time, but I do think you are able to get away with it if you're popular. That's kind of a funny question. I mean, it's kind of, it can go both ways. I can get heated, I think. That's
it's
a long
really
topic.
Yeah, it's really interesting how Apple has really been able to kind of train people like you're talking about in all these different ways, getting rid of the headphone jack or the home indicator at the bottom now. I can probably think of a million things that Apple has done that initially is like, ugh, I don't like this at all. And now you're used to it. And not only that, many other companies are kind of piggybacking off of some of that stuff. And of course it goes both ways, not just Apple leading the charge. It's, Android is doing things as well. But it's really interesting. We have someone in the chat. What kind of schooling did you have to become a UX designer?
Schooling. Let me think. So I was originally a graphic designer. I was a print designer, and then I loved print. I loved graphic design. However, I really wanted to start thinking about building on websites. So I actually taught myself how to code. I started doing, there's this really cool website. It's called Codecademy, and it was free when I took it, but I learned basic HTML, basic CSS, which I would say as a UX designer, as long as if you're going to be doing UI design, is really going to benefit you to just know a little bit of code. That way you can have those conversations with your developers to say like, hey, like, can we work together? Or this is kind of off. Like I was trying to get that, 8 pixel padding on the side. Being able to speak their language and work together is just going to make both your lives much easier. But I taught myself HTML, CSS, and I kind of worked my way up. I was working for Home Depot at the time. They hired me on to do print design work. But then I saw the UX designers having meetings over in the corner, and they would, be talking about users and research. And I was just lucky enough to be in an environment where they let me sit on their conversations. I got to learn with them, which was really nice. And and so I had a manager who said, Rachel, I really see that you're interested in this UX design. And a lot of it I try to learn on my own. And there are boot camps that you can do. I know General Assembly is one of them. There's a few others. There's a lot of information online. But she taught me about a course called Human Factors International. And Human Factors, they were some of the first to kind of define the terms UX. They were talking about user experience in airplanes in like the 60s and the 70s. So they're super old school. But I took a course with them for 2 weeks. They travel internationally, so you can check them out. They're called Human International. But also there's Nielsen Norman, which is a really great UX kind of their classes. They travel around globally. Right now, I don't think, obviously, you can't take their classes in-house, but they probably have virtual classes you can take. So I would check that out. General Assembly, Nielsen Norman, or Human Factors International. They're really accredited places to get started in UX design if you want like that formal education. But of course, there's lots of books out there, lots of articles.
That's true.
Communities. I definitely recommend anybody who's interested in UX design to join UX Discords or Slack groups. Just being a fly on the wall and being able to see conversations will teach you a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like some people are throwing in resources in the chat. Definitely keep those coming. If you have resources for user experience, UI, design, whatever it is.
Awesome.
Yesterday, we had a bunch for typography, which is great. Some that I didn't even know about. The ones specifically, I think Ayla pointed them out. The ones that pair up different fonts together. I thought that was super cool. I didn't know those existed. That was really fun.
That was such a cool site. Yeah, I love that. So it basically paired up like a serif with a sans serif or, other things. It was really cool. That was an awesome site.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm creating some little I couldn't remember what all of the icons were that folks were suggesting.
Oh yeah, I think there was close. There was a question mark.
Close, that's right.
Chat.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay.
I think someone also suggested an alert icon as well. Gotta be careful with the alert icon, but could be handy in some cases, especially for error fields.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll throw like a couple more on here, and then we'll kind of move on to the next. Let's see, close. I'm kind of a fan of just like the not in the circle. I definitely say, like, if you're going to create a guide of icons, if they're all if they're all filled in, make sure they all still stay filled in. If they don't have a fill, like, make sure that whatever system you do create, they're cohesive. So if you have them, like, you know, in a square or in circles, like, you'll want that design system to kind of be, you know, throughout your entire you want it to be the same, and it's cohesive, so it's universal.
Absolutely.
There's so many times where I go on sites and I see, you know, like, icons that are 5 different designs. I'm like, what is happening here? Like, if you're just gonna have it be filled, just fill it.
Yeah, and you have to be careful about the styling of icons too. We were talking about Animal Crossing yesterday, and do you know a website called Nookazon?
Nookazon, no.
Yeah, so it's basically a marketplace.
Where you can buy? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so you can trade with other people, you can list your items, you can have wish lists and things like that. They recently went through a major redesign, and some of it is okay, but one of the things that really bothered me, thankfully they fixed it pretty quickly, but they used an icon of a messages icon. And part of the icon, there was a little, like, almost like a notification bubble at the top of the icon, and it was filled in with red. So you're going to see that icon and think, oh, I have a message, right? But no, that's just the icon that they uploaded a color-based icon for messages with a red notification bubble. And those sorts of things you really have to think about, because that can send a completely wrong message to your users.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, colors, you have to be mindful of, icons that you use. Yeah, it can get really confusing.
Yeah,
so
Alexander has a question. Looks like it's for me. Do you think there will come a day where XD will allow folks to build apps and integrate services? Do you think it'll become a sort of app creator? That would be interesting. I know that the XD team they're working to bridge the gap between designer and developer. You know, they've released many tools over the last year or so, and they're going to continue to do that. It's a big shift to go from design to code. It's not as easy as it might seem. Of course, we do have integrations with Flutter. Google released a fantastic plugin that we worked with them on, so you can basically take your design, export it directly to Flutter, and with fairly a low amount of effort, you can turn that into an application. I think we'll continue to see some of these things going forward. Of course, we'll continue to see integrations internally within share mode and design specs. You know, now you have access to CSS, design tokens, and that sort of thing. And, you know, that will definitely continue to trickle out. I don't know what the future is for design to code within Adobe XD. I would love to see it, but it's a massive challenge and something that has to be done incredibly well. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but I unfortunately don't. So, but hopefully one day.
Cool. That's exciting to hear that you guys are kind of heading that direction. I mean, I think just how we talked about earlier, it's so important to be able to have, like, that conversation with all of your team members. So that's a tool that will definitely be able to help with that. Yeah.
And, you know, Raphael is asking Alexander a question. He says, wouldn't developers then have nothing to do? And it's an interesting conversation, because then, you know, if you have a world where you can just design something and then poof, create an application, you know, you could potentially destroy the development community. I don't think we'll ever see that, at least not in the near future, because you have applications and services like Webflow, and you have various others that you can design, and you have a working application or a working website. Those are for very specific use cases, right? You're not going to develop a service like Amazon using Webflow, or you're not going to develop an application like, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of what applications I have on my phone, but you're not going to develop a very in-depth application with databases and things like that using a design application, right? So you're still going to need a world where developers exist for those back-end services. But I think for basic things like your personal website, maybe even an in-depth blog, you know, design to code services might be the way to go.
I saw this really crazy website on Twitter where you literally type in whatever you're looking for. So if it's a red text box with the word cat in it, you type it in.
I saw that.
That's crazy. And it pulls up the code, or it pulls it up, and then it shows you the code of what it is.
Yeah.
I only looked at it from like a high level person. I didn't even like go to the website. I just saw it on Twitter, but man, we are just coming along so far.
That's for sure.
Cool. Okay, so we have some icons. We have a home icon. We have our favoriting, our heart icon. We have some messaging icons, some favicons, which we might have to work on a bit because
I was about to say
19 is really tiny.
I was about to say.
Yeah. So we might have to bold that.
Yeah, I think what you could do for things like favicons and stuff like that, I think it might have been Alexander earlier mentioned something about using, symbols like a mask, for example.
Oh, yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, so something like that, text-based favicons are typically a little bit, they're very tricky.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Yeah, I would definitely, I wonder if we have a mask. Let's see if there is.
Oh, maybe. And while you're looking for that, Simon is asking, will XD integrate Creative Cloud libraries into the app one day? So CC libraries are available under the File menu, or I think it's like Command or Control Shift L. If you press that, your CC libraries will open up. You can add colors, you can add character styles, components as well. So yeah, it's there, and the team is definitely going to continue adding to the Creative Cloud libraries experience, because the ultimate goal and one of the massive benefits of using XD and Adobe software is they all kind of link to each other, right? So there are a lot of workflows that I've done where I need something a little bit more than XD can provide, photo editing, or you have to cut something out or whatever. So you can, access your Creative Cloud libraries. You can open something up directly in Photoshop, save it back there, bring it back to Adobe XD, even if you're working on logos in Illustrator, for example. And then, later on, if you need to make those changes, you just go back to the application of choice if you need that application and make some edits, save it, and it automatically syncs back to XD. So all that integration is there already, and it's going to continue to improve in the future.
Cool. I wasn't able to find a mask. I probably could just draw one, but I think I kind of like this medical bag too. It'd be kind of neat to see that on here. So let's see. I think that's a really great suggestion, because sometimes, text space, especially when it gets that tiny, it just gets really difficult.
Yeah, and Alexander is also suggesting you can try just DCC and then scale that up. That could work too.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, Let's see here. Cool. Yep, I like that. And then I'll try the DCC also.
Yeah. Oh, so Annabelle's asking about the library that you're searching from with the icons, and Rachel is using a plugin called Icons for Design. You can access it either at the bottom left-hand corner of XD. There's a little plugins icon, or at the top if you're on the Mac under the plugins menu, and then you'll just want to go to Discover Plugins and then search for Icons for Design.
Yep, this Discover Plugins tool is awesome. There's so much to be found here, but that's exactly where I found it. I just searched here. I went to icons, and yep, there it is. Oh, I don't even think I searched for it. It's already kind of there. But Yep, Icons for Design right there, and over 5,000 icons. I mean, it's awesome. I love drawing icons, but sometimes you just need to throw something in there really quickly. But this is a great tool for that.
Yeah, there's some amazing plugins in XD, and one of the more recent ones that actually came from Adobe is called Quick Mockup, and it lets you very quickly create landing pages, websites, and that sort of, a lot of different mockups for, if you go ahead and search Quick Mockup, it's a mind-blowing plugin because it provides so much if you want to just very quickly get started with something. And then you can completely theme it, which is that when I first saw that, it blew my mind.
Okay, let's see here.
Yeah, so it gives you a bunch of elements, but if you also go to the template section right at the top, there's a bunch of different templates you can get started with.
Wow.
And it,
Do I have
it
to
looks
create
like
an artboard at first?
No, you can just click on it. And it looks like you would just create a little tiny, above the fold type thing, but you're going to see in a second it says massive landing page.
Whoa.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
But here, go ahead and move that over to the side so we can. But here's where things get really crazy. So you have this massive landing page that it created. Of course, you can customize it and add your own content in there. But if you go to the themes button within the plugin,
right here.
Yep, you can apply custom built themes that are part of this plugin. And when you click on one of them, it's going to completely re-theme the entire thing.
Oh my gosh, this is like
It's
doing
insane.
my job for me. This is so cool.
Yeah. So if you're looking to very quickly get started with a project, this is a good way to go.
Wow, where does it pull these images from? Like, and I'm assuming you can like just put in your own images once you're there,
Yeah.
but it kind of gives you like that visual as like a
Yeah.
head start to kind of get a picture. This is so cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. And then all the elements also change with it. And if you select the entire artboard, you can choose a new theme.
Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was looking for. This is so cool. Oh my gosh,
Isn't that insane?
that's incredible.
Yeah, and they're going to continue adding more templates, more themes. And the lead developer, Lance, mentioned that there's going to be user-generated templates and themes, I believe, coming.
This is awesome. Thanks for sharing that plugin.
It's super cool.
Cool. Okay, let's see here. So we have the medical bag, and then we're just going to do one last one. I think someone said DCC, which I think would be really cool. And then we'll call the icons a day.
Yep.
Great. Let's see.
We do have about 25 minutes until we dive into Discord and take a look at some daily creative challenge entries. So if you are still working on those, you do have a little bit of time left, but definitely make sure to pop them into the current challenge channel within Discord.
Oh my gosh, is it 25 minutes already? I'm like so behind. But we're having too much fun. Time flies by when you're having fun. Okay, so we'll move on from icons. We have our icons. Great. Let's go ahead and create our card section. So I have a sample card here that I thought was really fun. So what I've done is I pulled in that Just Breathe blue, and then we also pulled in our I believe this is our heading 2, and then our body copy medium, which is really cool. And then someone beat me to the punch. I put a heart in here just if we wanted to create a card that was like, you know, maybe you can get likes on it. I think that'd be really neat. So for the resources page, I have a few partners within the organization that we work with. One of them is Rebuilding Black Businesses, which is obviously, you know, to help promote Black businesses within the community. That's a really cool site to check out. Also Fight Pandemics, which is very similar to Design to Combat COVID-19. We're working in partnership. So whenever they need designers or engineers, they reach out to us. We reach out to them. It's a beautiful partnership. Also, the Design Vanguard is an incredible community. They're put on by the folks over at IDEO and Eames Institute. They're basically creating a catalog of all the people who are making impact for COVID, which is really cool. So let's say we have a card here. I'm going to go ahead and pull open an image that we can drop in here. So I have a resources and partners page here. So we can go ahead and drop that in there. So this could be an example of an image that we could pull in, which is really cool.
Right.
But let's go ahead and create another type of card.
And you mentioned earlier that you haven't explored the world of stacks yet, have you?
No, I haven't.
Ooh.
Is this a good time to walk through that?
This would be a good time, and I can see if I can walk you through it. And it's one of those mind-blowing features that is relatively new to XD. So go ahead and open your layers panel just so I can see what we're working with, because grouping is very important with stacks.
Totally.
Okay, so you have here, zoom in on that card so we can see what we're dealing with. All right, so you have so everything's in a group, I'm assuming. Okay, so everything's in one group. Now, dive into that card just so I can see how your grouping's set up. Okay, good. So it looks like, so we can actually, looks like you're grouping things pretty nicely. So there's probably not a lot you have to do right now. So go ahead and select the entire card.
Okay.
The entire group. And then over to the right, you have a stack option within the Properties Inspector.
Properties Inspector.
Towards the middle-ish. Right below responsive resize.
Uh-huh. Oh, I see.
Yeah, turn that on. So it automatically defined it as a vertical stack, as you can see. So there's horizontal. So there's horizontal and there's vertical. And right now, what you should be able to do is if you select the image that you just dragged in there, you should be able to just like kind of move it over to the left.
Oh, cool. Like all the way to the left?
Let's see. So we have, yeah, it should swap. Try selecting the one on the left, the card on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just select the parent group.
Parent group. Let's see here.
The one right above it. It put it in another group. Oh, it looks like there's another layer in there. Okay, I see. So undo this.
But that is cool that you can just like swap it over.
Yeah, once you set up the group properly. I think there was one extra layer that was throwing it off a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can also select the card group. The one with all the information in it. Mm-hmm. And if you add a stack to that, yeah, I think the post. Yeah, the post.
Oh, okay.
No, go ahead and undo that. Go ahead and select the post preview group, the one right in there.
Yep.
Yeah, add a stack to that.
Okay.
And now you should be able to move the information inside of it around. So if you wanted, let's say, the social icon above, you can just kind of swap it in there.
Just like move it up?
Yeah, you have to double click into the group and then grab the icon and just move it.
Oh.
The whole group of that icon.
Sorry, yeah. I'm like...
That's okay.
User error.
There you go.
Oh my God, look at that. I did it. That's so cool. Look at that.
Yeah, it makes designing so much faster.
Yeah, that's all. Once you get the hang of it.
Yeah, and I think
if you layer properly.
Yeah, and I think on the parent group there was like a larger card in the background which threw things off. I didn't notice that. That's why the stack wasn't working on that one.
Look at that. That's so cool. You can just that's amazing.
Yeah, and if you were to make that text box at the bottom bigger, everything should kind of flow down with it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, a lot of cool things you can do with stacks.
Awesome. Cool. Well, this looks like a really good card. I actually kind of like these little favorite icons right up there, which is great. Let's go ahead and do another variation. Well, you know what? We only have, how much time do we have left? Like 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, about 19 minutes.
No, okay. So I'll do one more card and then we'll move on to the resources page just because I do want to kind of start working on that a bit. But cool. So let's see. Let's say we have this version here. Let's go ahead and do another variation. So I think I kind of want to do this, but maybe get rid of that image. I'm just going to ungroup all of this and then bring this over. Let's see. I'm just kind of having fun here, but maybe I'm thinking, so we have our text. Maybe what we can do as another variation is I can create a line to kind of separate these two, and I'll give it like a thicker border, which I think would be kind of nice. And then let's see here. So let's see. Look at
and Lauren is asking
like a 0.5 pixel. Oh, go ahead.
No, so Lauren is asking, what are cards and what are they used for?
Oh, yeah. So a card is something that it's a type of module that you would put on a website. So if you ever go through, let's say you're shopping on Amazon or you are seeing like different sections on a website, typically that would be a card. So like this section would be a card, and then you can have like an image next to it, but it's basically just like a type of module that has information in it. Or like, let's say you're like on a swiping app and you could like move those little cards left or right, like basically anything that's a small module with content in it is typically a card. So what we're doing is we're just kind of defining if we were to have different types of cards on a website, like what would it look like? And I'm just kind of having fun here and just building something from scratch. But maybe this could be an image. Oh, you know what? I found a really cool plugin also that I wanted to chat about. It's called Placeholder Plugin. So if you create some sort of rectangle, what you can do is you click placeholder image and it gives you the exact dimension of what the image would be. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. I was kind of exploring different plugins yesterday, but let's see. So let's say I wanted to have this be a different color. Maybe we can go with the sunset or maybe the flamingo, but then, you know, our text, it's not really readable right now. So maybe we can go with the white for the text. I think that'd be kind of cool to see. Yeah. So this could be like another variation of a card that we could have. And then maybe I don't have. Yep.
And do you see when you remove that social icon, everything kind of squeezed in with it?
Because it's still stacked, right?
Yeah. So depending on the situation, if you do want your content, your background to kind of hug the content, then, that's a benefit of stacks and padding. Or if you wanted to make sure that the card is always the same height, then you'd probably want to turn stacks off for that situation.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Control Z. Awesome. Cool. Okay, yeah, so this is like another variation that we could do. And then we can throw like an image in. I think that'd be kind of fun. Obviously, we can explore this all day long. Right. But we also have content modules here. So if you wanted to showcase a card, like let's say this was swiping left and right to showcase, this new partner that we have or this new partner that we have. But then you had a content module. So maybe this could be like in the header section of your website saying like, hey, this is an example of a main headline. And then you could have some body copy, maybe throw a button on there. You can create different types of content modules. This could be an example, or maybe there's one with like an image on top, which you can create here. But you can definitely have fun within your style guide and define what those different types of content modules look like, what those different types of cards look like. But yeah, I think this is a really good starting point for our style guide. I know we kind of got a little bit more granular in some areas, but I think it's really important to have the basics, which is, typography, really defining your text styles, having a brand voice color, and then once you kind of have those base styles figured out, then you can start building on your call to actions, your buttons, your icons, because once you're able to define what fonts you're using, what colors you're using, everything just builds on top of that. So I think we're at a really good place here.
I think so. It's looking pretty good.
Yeah, and everybody here helped me, which is incredible.
I know, I love designing live in front of an audience.
It's so fun, and everyone's just given me amazing feedback, so thank you for that. Cool, so I want to chat really quickly about the resources page. So let me pull up mine right now. Let's see, design-to-combat-covid-19.com. I'm gonna go ahead and bring this over. So this is the website. If anybody's interested, you can get involved. When you click on here, it actually takes you over to the survey, so you can figure out, what type of skills you want to volunteer, if it's UX or web development, or if you even want to, if there's something that's not listed, you're more than welcome to help out.
And as
Rachel get involved.
Yeah, and if anyone is just joining recently, Rachel was talking about earlier, it's not just designers that they're looking for. It's basically anybody with any sort of skills, which everyone has some sort of skills. And, it takes a village to tackle this thing. So go and volunteer.
Yeah, please come join us. But you can check out more on this website. But we do have a small resources section here. Honestly, so this is a Squarespace site. I just kind of threw everything up in a night. And we have some partners, but I don't know. It doesn't speak to me very, very much right now. It's just like a lot of images, and I really want something. I thought was really nice is Adobe XD actually has. Oh no, where did it go? Oh, I think I took a screenshot of it here because I was looking at some inspiration of other websites. And XD, it's really nice on your resources page. You break it up, I talked about it earlier, into plugins and app integrations and UI kits and icon sets. And I think that's something I really would like to do for my page. Maybe break it up between partnerships, resources, and toolkits, because
that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of information out there, but it's hard to kind of decipher what's what. Like, is it a toolkit versus just information? So I love how you have this UI laid out where if you click on it, it kind of it tabs over and shows the page to a completely different subset. So I think I like that.
Yeah, and if you have a lot of different information, you probably don't want to cram it all on one page, because it's unlikely that someone's going to scroll all the way down to the bottom to get from one section to another if they don't really know that it's all the information is different. So having tabs at the top like that, it's a lot easier to digest, and
Yep.
users will be more reluctant to go to various, or more open to go into different sections.
Exactly. And I think that's what I'm running into right now, because we have a lot of partners that I haven't put onto this site yet, but if I just keep building it, it's just going to be such a long
Yeah.
scroll, and I want to be able to break up that content in a way. So I love how XD is kind of breaking it out in this way. Another thing that I thought was cool, so I talked about Fight Pandemics a little bit in Design Vanguard, and they both have these really fun, bright colors and really big, bold, like imagery or typography. That's
Hmm.
kind of like saying like, hey, this is who we are. It kind of gives you like that punch, that impact right at the beginning, which I think is really nice. So
Yeah.
it would be cool to design maybe with some type, like some really like a really big call out being like, hey, like these resources, they're here for you. And then once you scroll down a little bit, maybe below the fold, you can kind of get into those subsets. But I always recommend looking at what other people are doing, checking out Behance, just going and looking at there's other websites as well. I think there's like UI inspiration websites. I forgot the name of it. But basically, just go out, get a feel for what other folks are doing. Maybe it'll spark something in you. It's just nice to see what other folks are doing to kind of get inspiration. I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah, I spend a large portion of my days on Behance and Dribble, just
Yeah,
searching
Dribble's
for
great.
things. It's fantastic, and just searching for things that I'm designing. Obviously not to copy directly, unless you're
Of course
learning,
not,
unless
yeah.
you're still kind of exploring if you want to get into this field or not. Copying something for non-commercial personal educational uses is great.
Yep.
But I'm always searching for things to just get ideas. I'll pull some inspiration from one design, I'll pull some inspiration from another design, and
Yep.
bring those together, and you got something kind of cool.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite websites to get inspiration from besides like Dribble?
Behance is great as well. It's so in
Yeah.
depth, and they have so many different categories. It's basically those two that I spend most of my days on.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many other websites. I'm always trying to get inspiration. So if anyone has recommendations of great places for inspiration, please throw it in the chat. I'd be really curious to see what y'all come up with.
Yep.
Cool. So really quickly, I want to talk about the flowchart. If no one's ever seen this before, this is something we use a lot in UX design. It's just thinking about, where a person is on their journey and how they're going to get to that page. So right now I have, if you were to go to Design to Combat COVID-19, this is you're going to get dropped off on the home page. Let me pull up, let's see here. Cool. So then we have these other tabs. We have mission, need assistance, our impact resources. So we'll go ahead and add that on here as well. So you have different options you can go to. And what I like to use in this flowchart is this legend. So what I've created here is, you can see that this is the user. Anything within this box will be a screen. So whatever screen that they're on or page that they're on. I also like to define the action. So this we probably won't need for this situation, but if you're thinking about a logged in versus a not logged in experience, you're going to have to map out that journey. So let's say here it's like, is user logged, like user logs in, that would be the action, or user purchases, that would be the action. But for this instance, we're not going to use it. And then question could also be for the same purpose. So will they sign up for, email notifications, yes or no? If no, then they go on this route. If yes, then they'll go on this route. But we won't be using that for today. But if anyone wants to utilize this for future, work, or just to kind of reference it, this isn't, I didn't invent this, but people have been using it forever. But it's a really nice, clear legend to kind of give you an idea of how to build for that.
Absolutely, because at first glance, some people may not know. They may just think you just put in a homepage in a box, and there's no real reason for that box. And if there's something that's a rounded rectangle, they're like, okay, well, it's a thing, then a rounded rectangle, great. But knowing that that's an action can help drastically.
Yep, exactly. And what I've done as well is I've created these components. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and drag this in, and now we have page. I know that we have a mission page, so I'm going to go ahead and type in mission. Oh, there we go. And then I also have these arrows as well to kind of showcase different parts of the site. So we have, you can go to mission, you can go to need assistance. Let's see here. We also have
Eric Sue is mentioning, in addition to Behance, the awards site, AWWW ARDS.
Yeah, they're a great site. Mm-hmm. They always have fun new things. Okay, our impact. And then finally, we're going to go to resources and get involved. So we have resources and then get involved. And I'm not going to break out because we do have some subsections within these. I'm not going to break all those out. Since we are talking about the resources page, I will just do that. Let's see. Okay, so we need an arrow here. So I hope everyone's following so far. So basically what would happen is if you were a user and you go onto the home page, then you have these different options you can do. You can go to the mission page, you can go to the need assistance page, our impact, resources, get involved. Now, as we just talked about on resources, we had three main routes we wanted to do. We want to have resources, toolkits, and partnerships. So I think what I'll do is I'll create some more arrows talking about those things. And I have a flow arrow split here, which I'll bring up.
As you really start diving into the user experience of these services and websites, I can imagine the user flow is just going to explode with things.
It does. It's really important to make sure you have a legend, that everything's labeled clearly. Having a lot of space also helps. I'm kind of working in a tight area, so yeah, it can get kind of messy. But honestly, if you just take this time to do this step first, it'll save you a lot of headaches later on if you're building a brand new product, or if you have a big information architecture you have to consider. There's been so many times in my career where I'm like, oh, dang it. Like, I forgot this edge case, and now I have to go back and think about all the things. So if you just take the 15, 20, half hour to build this out at the beginning, future you will thank you.
Yeah, and don't forget to use components, because the last thing you want is to design out this massive conglomerate of a user chart, and there's a million actions all over the page, and then your creative director says, you know how that action thing is outlined and not filled in? Can you fill that in? And then you have to go through in every single 400 of those actions and fill them all in.
Exactly.
So use components, so you just have to edit it once.
Yeah. So that's a really good call out. Okay, so we'll do a resources here, meaning, basically pages. I think we have a site that tells you if you need to get COBRA insurance or how to file for unemployment. That would be something that we could put onto the resources page. A toolkit, toolkits. So I know there's this website called I Love Creatives, who's started by this woman named Puno. She's really cool. She created this website, I Love Creatives, and she has a toolkit on there. It's for how to budget. So if you're a new designer or you're kind of contracting, it's basically just a spreadsheet to help you how to budget. That's a really cool toolkit to use. I also know Ladies Get Paid have really awesome toolkits on how to build your own website, build your own brand presence. So a lot of these are open source, but we are also trying to build our own toolkits as well. So if you want to know how to build your own community or how to reach out to folks or how to network, we're building those toolkits internally at DCC19. Nice. So that's something we're definitely going to be putting onto this website as well.
Very cool.
And then the third one, what was the third one? It was, partnerships. So this is an area where we'll want to showcase, the folks that we're working with, rebuild Black businesses, fight pandemics, so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm not going to build out this entire flow chart, but now you kind of get a sense of, okay, if I were to go to the homepage and I went to the resources section of the homepage, then I have these various options, which would be really cool to break out, as opposed to just having it be a super long list on a web page.
Yeah, and this stuff helps tremendously as you're figuring out the actual flow of your website before you even start designing things.
Totally.
Yeah. All right, so we have about a minute left until we dive into Discord to take a look at some challenges. Now, Jay was asking in the chat, is that a plugin? And he or she might be referring to the actual pieces that you're working with within the assets panel for the user chart.
No, I don't. This is not a plugin. I built this from scratch and I created these components individually. But maybe there's a plugin. We can definitely look.
There is. So
there is. Cool.
The same team that created the quick mockup plugin created one, I believe it's called Whiteboard.
Oh.
That's the one there. And very similar to that quick mockup plugin, they have a bunch of different templates you can start off of. And you'll see that in a moment. So there's a ton of different templates, from like Kanban boards to flows and that sort of thing. And they also have elements. And I believe they have a bunch of arrows in there that all responsive. You can drag them out and all that fun stuff. Look at that. Isn't that cool?
I could have saved the time if I would have known. This is so cool. Yep. There you go. There's a plugin for it right there.
Yeah. And one of the really cool things about this plugin, I don't know how the team did it. They have this draw section, which actually pops up this modal, and you can actually draw on top of an artboard. And it doesn't have to be just on one of these templates, but it's also, you can do it on any artboard basically. So if you have feedback for somebody, you can draw a circle or an X or whatever it might be. If you have a Wacom tablet, it helps a little bit. It's really cool how they implement it, and it's vector.
That's awesome.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
This is really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yay.
All right. So with that being said,
cool.
Let's hop over to Discord and we will take a look at some of the entries. I'm gonna pop open Discord as well, so we can take a look.
Do I share on my screen?
Sure. I can take a look at mine as well, but also you can take a look on yours too.
Great.
Let's see. Current challenge channel. There we go. So I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. I'll just start down there. So again, just to remind everyone, today's challenge was to create a scrollable list, and the prompt was to redesign the contacts experience for a work-related messaging app as you use scroll groups to create a scrollable contact list. And by the way, just a quick plug, shameless self-promotion. I did release a new video today on YouTube. You can watch after I have it linked on my Twitter account. You can watch it after the stream. All about scroll groups. 5 different ways you can use scroll groups, from horizontal lists to software experiences, AR, and that sort of thing. So you can take a look at that afterwards. All right. So, and it's possible that it looks like we haven't had anything for today's challenge because Andrea, who is running the challenge, hasn't done her stream yet. She's doing it after ours, I believe. So we can take a look at some of the ones from the last challenge as well.
Awesome.
All right, so we've got our, looks like Socrates e-learning platform. I'm not sure which challenge this was from, but it looks like it's a little bit of a simple form with a very bright green background. These colors are very difficult to work with, and I typically try to avoid colors like this because they sometimes pose accessibility issues. They're very bright. They're kind of in your face. So if I had any immediate feedback, I would kind of drop that color, go for a more neutral color if possible. And let's see, let me blow it up a little bit. It looks like there's a shadow on the button. It's not the worst shadow in the world, but it might, if you do tweak the background color to a more neutral color, you can probably drop that shadow completely, so it's not necessary. And the final thing I would probably say is I always love adding icons in my form field. So for the email field, pop in like an envelope icon and maybe a lock icon for the password. And it does look like the person who was giving feedback for this particular design was also talking about the alignment as well.
Yeah, I think this would be a great opportunity to use that Stark plugin as well to kind of see how the colors are doing for accessibility, because if somebody was colorblind, I don't know if they'd necessarily be able to see that background color as well as somebody who wasn't. But I also agree with the icons. I think icons are great, especially for form fields, especially if they're animated and it's kind of blinking to letting you know, like, hey, you should probably start typing in here or something along that line. I think it goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
All right, so looks like we have a few more, probably from that same challenge. I see that same green
Oh, yeah.
popping up in there. Okay, so from the same user as well. So Alexis was giving some feedback about the button and a little bit of spacing issues. So yeah, I would kind of run with the same feedback. The green's a little bit difficult, especially if you're looking at the second image in that post. We've got sort of a green progress bar going around and a purple inner circle. All of these colors kind of get a little bit muddy. The overall design isn't terrible. It's just that, if you tweak the colors, it can go a really long way. And Eddie's laughing at my shadows. I go off on shadows whenever I can.
You actually inspired me to throw some shadows into my background and my colors yesterday.
I saw that.
You're like, borders or shadows? I was like, borders. But then last night I was like, maybe I'll throw a shadow on there. Yeah, I think this brings up a really good point too. One word of advice I would give, if you have a lot of colors going on, take a swatch of each of the colors and throw it on a canvas and just see if it meshes well together. If you're thinking this is too much, then you probably, should hone down a little bit, and maybe you can start pairing colors a bit more with like brighter colors versus softer and neutral hues. That's a really good approach as well. So if you think there's too much going on, maybe just throw it on an artboard and give it like an overview, and that can definitely help give you a gut check as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
All right, so if we scroll up, there's a voice one, a little bit above that one. Yeah, that one right there. Let's take a look at that.
Oh, let's see if I can make it
video
bigger.
games.
Which item made Mario invincible in Super Mario?
Oh, looks like there's audio as well. Do you hear it?
Can you hear that?
Mario Brothers.
I can hear it on my
Mushroom.
end, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if let me actually play this again. I don't know if the chat can
Video
hear
games.
it.
Which item made Mario invincible in Super Mario Brothers?
Oh, that's cool.
Mushroom.
I like how it has kind of the 8-bit heart
Correct
at the top.
answer. Star.
Yeah. And
Which
now,
item made Mario
now that Adobe XD has not only voice support, but also audio support, experiences like this are really cool to make, where you can have, you can speak to Adobe XD, you can also have audio. So if you get something wrong, you can play one sound. If you get something right, you can play another sound. It's a really cool implementation.
Yeah, that is a cool implementation.
Yeah.
Which
I
item?
think the only feedback I have for this is the choose category title. It feels a little like by itself. Everything else, it feels like it had a bit of thought into it. There's a specific font, it's bold, and the choose category, it feels almost like an afterthought. So I would definitely, think about how to use, like if you do click on it, maybe it's a different color, maybe it has a back arrow if you're trying to go back. I'm not really sure what choose category is. Like, is it just a header? Is it something that you can click on? And choosing your colors or using an icon, having it be underlined will definitely be indicators of what steps you can take with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But really cool use of the voice and audio playback features.
Yeah, the voice and audio is awesome.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a look at one more, considering these are from the previous challenge. And if you're still working on challenges from this week, definitely keep submitting them in the current challenge channel, because additional guests and hosts throughout the week will be looking at this stuff. So maybe one more up. There's looks like a crafty application of some sort.
Is it the one with the hamburger?
No, it's a little bit further up. I think that hamburger one was
Oh, I see.
something else. Yeah, this one here.
Oh, cool. Oh, this is fun. I wonder if it's like a Pinterest type, maybe like a craft.
Yeah, it looks something like that.
I'm gonna play this again.
Yeah. So the immediate bit of feedback that I have is everything feels very small. This looks like it's
Yeah.
made for a mobile device. And if you go on, Instagram, you go on Facebook, even Pinterest, text is pretty large. I'm not sure what the size of this particular text is. It might be like 8 pixels possibly. But, bump that up to 12, 14, sometimes even 16. You might be able to get away with for headers and, more call to actions. But don't be afraid to, increase the size of that text, because small text like that could be very difficult to read.
Yeah, I think this is a really good example. Someone asked earlier what a card is. This is a great example of what a card would look like. I think this person really explored the imagery well, but yeah, agreed. A lot of things are small. This heart icon, are you supposed to tap that with your thumb? That's something I would consider as well. I believe your thumb pad is 72 pixels average wide, and this is super tiny. So if you're expecting someone to tap on it with a mobile device, they're probably going to go 5 or 6 times before they hit it. So these are definitely things you'll want to consider. I think this person did a fun job of exploring how to use imagery in different ways. I think that's really cool. But agreed, the text and icons could definitely have a few bumps up, especially for a mobile device.
Absolutely. All right, cool. So let's hop back over to, I know you still have a bunch of things to touch on before we wrap things up, but yeah, let's hop back over to your XD document and continue the process.
Yeah, let's do it. Awesome. Okay, so what we've done is, so far, we've done the user chart. We've taken a look at some inspiration. So as I mentioned, I really like how XD has these different tabs of places that we can showcase resources. Fight Pandemics has a really nice, section of just that bold statement of what they're trying to come across, as does Design Vanguard. It's really cool, and that's kind of inspiring to me. So what I did is I took a really quick sketch. I wanted to do something kind of the same. And this is an older sketch. Like, now that I've been kind of marinating on it, I think I might explore different options of what this resources page would look like. But obviously we want the navigations, like the logo, and then the other parts of the site that you can go to. And then having a really big header image, I think, would be really cool, with a big call out of whatever it is we're trying to say. And then, so this is an older exploration before I discovered the tab option. But at first I was like, well, maybe I could do it into subsections where I have like a big header, and then I can showcase this section. I thought maybe we can swipe left and right, but I think I would like to explore more of that tabbing section. So what I did was I started to create this desktop lo-fi. What's really cool about XD is you can do the repeat grid. So if you need to, just pull those, the grid really quickly across, just hit repeat grid, and then you can go ahead and do so like that, which is really nice. Or if you wanted to pull it down, that's a good starting point for lo-fi, which is awesome. But what I'll do is, and something else you really want to consider is mobile first. So I like to always think mobile first. And what I've also learned is that you don't necessarily have to do one for one. So everything that you showcase on desktop doesn't necessarily have to always translate on mobile. So if you want to get rid of a few elements, just consider, what is it do I want to show on mobile? And then if I have more space, what does that space look like on desktop? That's definitely something that you can consider as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation as well, because I think a lot of people assume that you take a website, you shrink it down, and then you're good to go, right? But these days, especially with mobile first, often the experiences across mobile and desktop are completely different experiences. You may not need all these social icons possibly at the top of your page on a mobile device. Maybe they work better on the bottom. You may not need all the different cards and experiences on the website that you have on a mobile, because it could be very different audiences as well. So, a lot of times I look at those as two completely different experiences. And sometimes instead of using responsive resize or many of the other features that allow you to kind of shift objects around, I'll just completely redesign something from scratch, because I know it's going to end up with a better user experience.
Yep, exactly. You hit the nail right on the head. So let's see here. I just updated, so it should have came over, but let's see here. So I created these components and then awesome. Okay, so I have a hamburger. I want to drop that into my mobile. Let's see here. So what I'll do is drop this right over here. And then we also know that we want our logo nice and big. I wonder if my logo pulled over. Yep, I have my main logo right here. So I'll drop that in here. Maybe not so big, but we could have it like somewhere at the top. But these are just going to be lo-fi. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. So I always end up doing that. I always end up like mocking up before I really should be, which I definitely encourage folks, if you have time to like wireframe, do that first because it'll save you headaches down the road. Definitely.
That's for sure. I do that way too often where I just jump straight into high fidelity.
I know, because I get excited.
I know.
But yeah, I definitely encourage folks to do that. Take your time, sketch where you can. And yeah, I mean, there's no reason to rush. We're all just here to make sure that we're solving for the right thing. Now, one thing that I think would be interesting, so I talked about those tab sections on desktop. How would that look like on mobile? So that's definitely something that we can think about as well. But what I'll do is I'll think about how we do it on desktop. So I'm going to do this. And what was the 3 sections? It was resources. Let's see here. Then I'm going to make that. How does that look? Cool. Resources. It was toolkits. Then partnerships. And I don't even necessarily know if I would stack it the way that I have it here. So I might redo that. And this is looking kind of super large. So yeah, I think that's a good size.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Looks pretty good.
I'll bring this down just a smidge. And a really cool indicator. So one thing you want to consider if you were to have different types of tabs like this is showcasing, you know, which part of the page that you're on. So let's say you click this resources section and everything below resources changes, then how would you know, if you click on toolkits, if it's going to switch out, like what part of the page are you on? And a really good way to showcase that is to maybe have some sort of underline that you can have highlighting what part of the page that you're on. So I think that's something that we can explore.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the underline because, one way to do it is to change up the text styling a little bit, whether one is a little bit bolder or you drop the opacity on the other ones that are not active. But then you're kind of fighting with yourself over accessibility because if you drop the opacity, then it could be, could negatively affect your accessibility. But with an underline, nice, bold, you can possibly bring in that blue or the purple or whatever it might be. It's always going to be a safe bet.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely want to show like which active page that you're on. And this is a good indicator of that. But let's see. Okay, so let's say we're on the resources page and there's toolkits and there's partnerships. So resources, we can go ahead and give it a fill of our sanitary because that's the page we're going to be on. But I still laugh at that name.
It's great.
Okay, and then toolkits and partner, but then this kind of like looks blurred as well. So then maybe we can separate. I don't know. I think there's different types, and then I would definitely like look at inspiration as well. So if you see that maybe this isn't working, then you can definitely look at Behance or Dribble, or I think there's a website that I like to go on. What is it called? I think it's called like UI Patterns. I wonder where I have it, but yeah, it's, here it is. Here's a really good site as well. I'll pull it up. It's called Mobbin. Have you seen this site before?
I have not heard of that one, no.
Yeah, it's really cool. So basically you can browse different sections and you can browse by apps or you can browse by patterns. So if you wanted to browse for a pattern, we can do maybe, let's see, tab bars. Perfect. Oh no, I guess now you have to log in.
Oh,
Which is, it's fine. I don't mind logging in. It's actually a really cool site.
just
But
don't
before
show
you
any
could,
personal information.
yeah, on it. Cool. Okay, so tabbed. There we go. Let's see here. Am I crazy? Why am I not seeing it? Well, anyways, yeah, so this is a really cool site that you're able to kind of look at different patterns or just apps in general. Tab bars. Oh, here we go. So you click on here and you can go to
Okay.
tabs, tab bars. Yep. You can go to navigational bars. So here's a good example. So Rent the Runway. So here we have, it's a little
Yep.
bit small. Maybe if I could zoom in. Oh no, what did I do? I broke it. But basically you could see on the Rent the Runway example, how it had like the different, let's see, Rent the Runway. Well, you guys can explore. But
Yeah, I'm gonna
basically it
check that
had
out
like the different
afterwards.
colors and such, which is a really good example as well.
Yeah, and Stephanie just linked uimovement.com, another one I haven't heard of, but
Oh,
sounds
let's check it
interesting.
out. UI movement. Oh, let's see. Let's try one more. uimovement.com. Oh no, I don't know if that's right. Cool.
Okay, that's neat.
Oh yeah, look at that.
More
And you can
inspiration.
filter, yeah, more inspiration, information architecture, landing pages. Yeah, I like this. I also,
Yeah.
design tools, UI inspiration. Cool. Page flows, design tools. This is great. I'll have to check this one out. Yeah, and Mobbin's cool too because you can kind of break it down from pattern versus like an app, which is nice. I think it's mostly app-based, but anyway, so you can get some inspiration there. Okay, so let's say you're on the resources page. I'm going to make these just like a little bit thicker. Cool. And then I don't know, now these look like super tiny, so maybe just for the sake, we'll just make it like really big, just for
Sure.
fun.
And for those
then-
watching, we do have about 5 minutes left, but definitely stick around. After this, Andrea's coming up with day number 1 of the latest XD Daily Creative Challenge. So you're not going to want to miss
cool.
that. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Andrea runs amazing challenges, so stick around for that.
Awesome. Okay, and then here's like a really good example as well. If you wanted to have like a really fun image of something here, then you can drop that in. So maybe we can just like get rid of this, throw that in there, and then I have some peeps that we could bring in here. Oh no, I'm breaking my peeps.
Oh, no. On the main component, you'll want to turn off responsive resize. So you have to edit the main component.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. I could also just pull it from.
I ran into that issue during a live stream not too long ago where I was working on very similar vector illustrations, and I went to resize it, and the guy lost his pants. And I just lost it because I wasn't expecting that. I forgot to turn off responsive resize, and it was just a weird, awkward experience.
Yeah, especially if his pants go flying off.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so this is kind of fun. Like you could have a really cool image, and then you can have your headline kind of like laying out here. So we're just kind of like having fun and exploring. Let's see.
I love how clean this is, especially with that contained image up there and kind of like in that bounds, but the laptop is kind of poking out. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it kind of like it breaks the space a little bit. So let's say we wanted to have designed to combat COVID right there, and then you can start really bringing in like your different buttons if you wanted to. Oh, this is like not centered and it's really bothering me. Yeah, you could play around with that. So then we have our resources section, and then let's say we wanted to create various resources. We can do our repeat grid, and it could be fun on a mobile device to do it like side swipe if we wanted to, which would be really neat. And then we could have maybe like a small blurb underneath the resources section here to kind of just say, these are some really great places where you can get more information on.
Yeah, it's always
Whatever
good to
resources
have
you provide.
those secondary headers in addition
Yep.
to the primary, because resources can mean a lot of different things, especially if you're not familiar. In a world like this where we're going to websites about COVID, maybe people don't know what resources could be available for something like this. So it's always
Right.
important to have as much information as possible without overloading the page, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see, we have our heading of, we're going to go do this and then bring it over here. We
Got
have
about a
our
minute
heading.
left until we wrap
Okay.
things up.
Cool. Informational resources to help you with whatever you may need during this time. I think would be like a really good sentiment. But yeah, so you can have fun with it. So yeah, we could. I'm like, oh, I feel rushed. But basically, you start. You can build these sections, and then you create other sections,
Mhm.
and then maybe for like your mobile device, what you can do is you can create this. Same type of tabbing section, but maybe, when you have resources, toolkits, or partnerships, what you can do is you can click on it and maybe it expands. It could be like an accordion or it can be a list. However, when you think about lists, it could get really long, but
Right.
I hope everyone kind of, had fun with me building my design system. As of yesterday morning, I didn't have a design system. So thank you everyone for helping me build it. And thank you, Howard, for having me.
Of course, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. And please come to my site. I'm going to be implementing a lot of the things that we built together. So it's going to be really cool to see updates happen, especially now that we actually have a design system to work off of.
Sweet. All right. Before we head off, let's just take a quick look at the rest of the day in terms of scheduling. We've got, we just finished with Rachel. We've got Andrea coming up with the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. And then Kathleen right after that with a sketch party. That sounds like a lot of fun. I want to join a sketch party.
That does sound really fun.
Yeah. All righty. So any parting words? Where can people find you, Rachel?
Yeah, everyone can find me at this website, designedtocombatcovid19.com. If you want to volunteer or if you just want to come say hi, you can do that. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at @ORachelSmith, or you can find out more about me at rachelsmithdesign.com.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, big thank you to everyone who has joined us today and yesterday as well. Stick around for the Daily Creative Challenge, and a big thank you to Rachel, who has been designing some really cool stuff over the last 48 hours.
Thanks so much. This has been so much fun. I've had a blast.
Great. That's great to hear. So, all right, everyone, we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.